G'day, ladies and gentlemen, legends of the highest regard, and welcome back to our Democracy 4, turning Australia into a economic powerhouse, I guess. So this will be episode number 4. Now, in previous episodes, we ran into I ran into an issue where I actually maxed out the GDP. So I now have even though it says that it is maxed out, I now have a mod operating that allows the GDP to actually be increased beyond what the game says the maximum GDP should be for that country. And the other thing that I'm going to say that's going to sort of blow everyone's mind is one of our first ports of call is going to be increasing the GDP. Which sounds insane, I know, but it's because of our budget deficit. We want to keep increasing that GDP and using the GDP money to pump back into the people's benefits within the economy. And by doing that, it automatically continues to increase the GDP because people have more money, less stress. They've got more spending money. They then pump that money into the economy, which creates, continuous flow-on effects. And we'll get to a point where the GDP will be so high that any sort of economic downturn will not affect the country. We may already, in fact, be at that point. But basically, what I'm trying to do at this point is reduce the budget deficit without taxing people. Now, I don't know if it's possible, and we may run into a situation where, we may reach the limitations of the game, and therefore we may not actually be able to achieve that, but I figure it doesn't hurt to explore, and in the meantime will potentially enable us to create even more employment, because the two places where we still need to work on is obviously our unemployment, which whilst it is low, it could be better, and number 2 is the health is not quite up where it should be yet. So, I'd also like to say apologies for no webcam. Ever since the latest update that came out for Democracy 4, if I use my green screen, I can't use my mouse within the game. So, I've decided to go away with the webcam. If you want to know what I look like, you'll know from some of my previous Democracy 4 videos, and hopefully the issue will be sorted in due course, but it's not going to affect the content. Alright, so don't believe what the approval rate is saying right now. It's a bug, I believe, to do with the GDP mod that I threw in. It should come good. So, we've got a good amount of political capital, 21. The debt is 2.34 trillion, and this is part of the reasoning as to why I want to start investing some serious money into the growth of industry within the country. So, that is what we're going to try and do. So, the thing is, this is going to obviously cause more debt to begin with. However, I'm sort of hoping that we will eventually get to a point where if we've invested enough money back into the people, the expenditure from the people will negate the whole government expenditure issue. Now, as I said, this might have a problem with the game. It may not actually be able to produce that at this point, and if that's the case, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to go down the road of taxation, which I do not want to do if I can avoid it, because I do want to try and prove that it is possible to run a country that benefits the people without plunging it into a ridiculous amount of debt. Now, why is that there? I see. So that's going to increase a lot of things. It's also going to help the environment. Now, it does have an implementation delay of 24 months, so 2 years. But, you know, the big one that I'm seeing there is a 5% increase in productivity and an 11.2% decrease in unemployment, as well as helping to decrease poverty, which is already, I think, just a touch below what it can actually be. So we're going to do that. This is going to be a very, very expensive episode governmentally, but should hopefully provide benefit into the future. So that's our first port of call, was that. Our state telecoms company has already been implemented, as has our state energy company to the absolute maximum. We also have the smart meter program. We're going to increase the technology grants here, and that's going to increase our productivity and our GDP and the technology, and it's going to decrease the unemployment issue that is currently probably the issue that is plaguing us the most. Now, of course, this is all spend again, but this money is going to enable people within those industries to potentially have a better time. That's probably the best way I can put it. So that's going to be helped as well by that we have robotics research grants. So, yeah, clean energy subsidies are up. The minimum wage can stay there at the moment. Recycling, that's not really going to do anything for what we're trying to achieve in this episode. We will play with that at a later date. We do have that fully implemented. Rural development grants are fully implemented. The agricultural subsidies are fully implemented. Helicopter money is in. I feel like for just the smallest increase in... Oh, hang on. Smallest increase in inflation, so 2.66% inflation, which is ridiculously low for the fact that it's going to increase our GDP slightly more, and it costs us 2 political capital, I think. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. It doesn't cost us any outgoing money to do that. So city farms are 100% implemented. The business startup campaign is also implemented. The labour laws are balanced, which is what we currently want. Maternity leave, I would like to increase, but maybe not in this episode. Just again, because we are going for such a high expenditure episode, I guess, in the ability to increase the position of the country. So, although I only have 5 political capital left, I'm actually going to, although I still have, is what I should say, 5 political capital left, I'm going to actually move on to the next turn. So the end life recycling law. Yeah, you know what? Let's pass that law. I know capitalists are not going to like it because it goes against the free market, etc., etc. So I'm not sure why we're going to have tax evasion, because the only real tax that we do is income tax. We don't really tax anyone else. So the GDP is through the roof, basically. There is no other way of putting it. Oh yeah, I just remembered we're still known as the fucking Green Collective because I hit the wrong damn button in the first episode. That really frustrates me, in case that wasn't obvious by the way I just said that. Okay, so economy. we would like to no, I don't want to do things that are going to increase poor earnings. I want to do things that so is it worth I know this goes against everything that I've sort of said, but is it, seeing as we're going to go for a country that you know, sort of benefits the people and nobody's going to be poor, is it also worth making it a haven for the wealthy? I feel like it might be. I feel like we might need to just do this down here at about this level. And we'll just see what happens. So I want to make it very clear that that is not going to be a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a thing that disadvantages those who are maybe not so well off. We're still going to make a very, 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 very concerted effort to make sure that everyone is not living in poverty. In case that wasn't obvious by the fact that we actually have basically no poverty within this country at this point, and that's only going to get better. So I want to increase foreign investment, I want to increase high earnings, I want to increase business confidence, I want to increase foreign relations. So basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to run a socialist capitalist economy where nobody gets left behind, but those who have the ability to can make themselves stupidly rich. So that we do have people who will be very wealthy, but we will never have anyone who gets left behind. It's been achieved in countries before. I'm going to try and achieve it within the game. So, foreign investor tax breaks. We will just leave that in the middle where it is right now and see what occurs. It's only got one turn of implementation delay. So, yeah. We've implemented all of that. Now we will go and we will have a look at the next turn, see where the situation is. So we've just unlocked a achievement of some sort. I didn't quite catch what it was. So we have a housing market boom. We still have absolutely no poverty. Bureaucracy. Right. We'll monitor that. So rare earth metal prices. This is because of our requirement for technological stuff. Yeah, whatever. Oh, there we go. Academic paradise. So we have a super educated population, which is a good thing. It's what, you know, I don't see that as a bad thing, having a super educated population. So our debt will be skyrocketing. Unfortunately, it doesn't, because of the way the mod works, it doesn't reset until the start of the next episode, because it needs to, basically, you need to save your game and close it down, and that's when it figures out all the mathematics. And then when you next open it, you'll get to see the benefit of your efforts. So we unfortunately won't really see what we've achieved within this episode, but we will come the next episode. So one thing we need to work on here is we need to do rare earth metal mining, which costs 32 political capital. Right. So I didn't necessarily want to have to do this sort of at this point, but it seems like we don't have an option. So to make sure that our political capital keeps turning over, what I basically have to do is I need to implement a policy or change a policy or something with a very small political capital usage, and then I need to go straight to the next turn. And what that's going to allow us to do is build political capital. Another thing that we can also look at is the Green Electronics Initiative, which requires 23 political capital, and we should probably do that after the rare earth metal mining so that we can guarantee that we're not going to be relying simply on just the mining to create our very much technological forward society that we have. So what I will do is I will just implement a youth politics council so that our youth is educated in the future about politics and can continue to make this country as amazing as it possibly can be. So we'll go straight to the next turn. I know that seems crazy, but so as you can see, our approval rate is already up to 40%. Now this is unfortunately probably going to be a thing every time I play with the mod that increases the GDP beyond what they think is a requirement or what is achievable for that country. So rare earth metal mining, we're going to implement that. We are going to possibly just leave it where we are right now at selected sites. I feel like that'll be a good thing, and then we'll do the same thing because that's going to use all our political capital. We're going to have to go through to the next turn, and what we'll do in the next turn is we will, assuming we have enough capital, we will implement the Green Electronics Initiative to help counterbalance that and potentially help counterbalance any environmental issues that may occur from within that. We're going to ban face recognition at this point just because we do not have a crime rate to be concerned about. So I feel like that's wasted money. So again, this is going to be an issue. Again, that will be all sorted by the mod at the end of the episode, is what I'm trying to say. So as you can see, our GDP is actually 3 trillion, which is just freaking insane. The debt is definitely climbing. It is 2.66 trillion. So, but as you can see, it's been on a continuous steady climb. The only spike has been there and there. For the rest of the time, it has just been a continuous upward spiral, whereas the GDP has just been off the charts from the minute I took. So eventually, at some point, this will start to fall away again. It's just a question of how long. That is the question. So we need to now do the Green Electronics Initiative. We're going to implement that. And I feel like we should just go for the full hog on that, actually. Yeah, we're going to. And that's going to completely wipe our political capital again. Now, however, we have that issue under control with rare earth metal mining prices and stuff like that. We're still potentially going to have an issue with bureaucracy, which is not ideal. However, we now have made scientific breakthroughs. This is good news. This is what we want. So now we'll get 46% of the vote in an election, which is a good position to be in, especially considering we are only halfway through the turn cycle, I believe, or just over halfway. So we really need to increase that income, and it is slowly increasing, absolutely. So all that's going to do is boost foreign relations, which to me is really not a brilliant thing. It's not what one is looking for at this point, anyway. So we don't want to do does increasing farmers' income directly affect the GDP? I'm not sure. A packaging tax will decrease the GDP, so I'm not interested. A plastic tax at this point will decrease the GDP, so I'm not interested. However, it will create potential income. Luxury goods. This country already has a luxury goods tax, but it's not popular with the voters, so I would love to put in a recreational drugs tax, but that actually requires us to first allow recreational drugs, which we do not have. So a hybrid cars initiative doesn't get us any income. I see. So a carbon tax is something that we will probably implement at a later date. However, not right now. Financial transactions tax is not a flat income tax. Interesting. That unfortunately may need to be implemented at a later date. Graduate tax, no, hell no. It's going to turn people away from... So, a mansion tax would potentially be not bad. A married tax allowance, no. This country already has a property tax, so we will need to implement that at some point. It also doesn't have a punitive wealth tax, but that may also be worth implementing at some point, especially once the whole population has a very high income. Some of these taxes will need to obviously be implemented. And then a religious tax is something that I will absolutely implement at some point, basically because by the time it comes to time to implement it, there'll probably be no religious people left in the country due to the extremely high scientific approach that the country takes. So, I want to... What do I want to do? Consumer rights. Yep, that's correct as to what they are within the country. How am I going to... I've sort of actually come to a crossroads here. And I'm not sure exactly where to go. Narcotics. So, yep. Okay, we'll bring up the age limit for cannabis. Going to apply that. That is a lot of political capital. We're going to need to go to the next turn, and then we're going to implement a small tax on that. So we now have obesity under control, which is bonkers to even think that that would ever be a thing that could be achieved. I do not want to allow the sale of genetically modified food. So the debt to GDP ratio is getting a little bit crazy. However, I guarantee you once the mod has a bit of a play with its ways, that we will probably find ourselves in a position where it's actually not as insane as it's currently being made out to be. So, now we want to... Ooh. Let's have a look first. Where is the people? I want to know the people. Opinion polls. So, there is very few people left in the poor bracket with disposable income. There's a lot of wealthy people. Interesting. So the poorest person in this country has $109,000 of disposable income. And you're trying to tell me that this isn't a wealthy country. Okay. Right. So, it's time to unfortunately implement some of the policies that I was sort of holding off on implementing. And they are unfortunately tax related. And I'm not happy to be implementing these. However, they are not going to go at the rate that the game is suggesting here. We're going to implement that at 20%. And that's used all of our political capital for that turn. So that's good. Yes, I kind of knew that would potentially cause that. Not, the level of inequality in the country, hey? I don't know about you, mate, but I'm not sure what country you are living in, because I don't see significant inequality within this country. But anyway, you do you, buddy. So, now we can implement the recreational drugs tax. Sure, let's implement it just somewhere in the middle there. Nothing too insane. And then we will implement, seeing as we are in the process of implementing tax, we're going to implement the minimum for packaging. And, oh, we can't actually implement anything more at this point. Right. I guess we're off to the next turn. We're off to see the next turn, the wonderful next turn in Oz. Okay, so bureaucracy is still plaguing us. There's been a royal baby, which is cool. Major party donor. A border navy. View policy. I mean, if that's what they want, I'm not sure whether I want to, so I'm just going to implement it there, just to keep our donor happy, and just go on our way. So we're going to do the plastics tax as well. We're going to implement that at the bare minimum. So even though we are implementing tax, we want to obviously keep the taxation rate as low as possible. Too much bureaucracy. So too many laws and policies. Right. I feel like that's a bit weird. So you'll notice that even though the debt says it's 3.09 trillion and the relative GDP is 3 trillion, the GDP is still above the debt. And that will simply be because our GDP is in fact not 3 trillion, it would be significantly more. Probably closer to 3.5 at this point. Which for a country that, well, when we started anyway, had 25 million people, I feel like that's pretty freaking insane. Not gonna lie to you. So state pensions are up. That is good. That is perfect. That is where we want it. The disability benefit is through the roof. The child benefit. Does this... I mean... it benefits absolutely every single member of society in some way, shape or form. But it costs a lot. But it means people are making more money. So I'm just going to do it. That might have been a mistake at this point. But, yeah. So the unemployment benefit, you know what? Can go right down to the bare minimum. This might help solve our unemployment issue. And there is no lack of work in this country, and everybody is extremely wealthy. So, we'll see what that does. Yeah, of course I'll attend the wedding. Why wouldn't I attend the wedding? It's a wedding. Like, cool, they've invited me. Awesome. So, rare earth crisis has finished. The credit rating has been downgraded, which is not brilliant, to triple B. But again, that will sort itself out once I save and leave the game, which is cool. It's not the best way to do this sort of stuff, but, you know. So... we're coming up on an election. our popularity is 58%, so we should get an election win here. However, I want to use this 21 political capital as best as I possibly can. So, do we create a tax break for mortgages? And it says this helps home buyers to afford their mortgage payments, but can be resented by those who are not in position to buy a house. Everyone in this country is in a position to buy a house at this point. Without a doubt. So, it doesn't give us any income. That's the only annoying part. Really need to figure out something to drop that, so school tax credits. However, we fully fund our school industry already, so I feel like that would be a complete waste of money. Okay, let's have a look at economy. Organic farm subsidies. That's going to increase the health. It's going to increase the income of farmers. They were getting annoyed at us, though, for having too many policies creating bureaucracy. Import tariffs are nice and low. Sort of want to keep that. Yep. Tourism ad campaign. The border navy is implemented at the minimum. The refugee policy is where I want it to be at this point. Car emission limits for the moment can stay where they are. We might actually be at a point right now where, until we can get more political capital per turn, that we actually can't really do much. Okay. So, we can increase. Okay, we can increase stem cell research. Let's do that. And then science funding is already to the maximum. State. We can increase the state broadcaster as well, so that we have a fully implemented state broadcaster. Organ donation, yep, that's cool. I don't mind that being there. Compulsory school sports. At the moment, we don't have a health issue, so that's fine. Free parenting classes. Yep, let's do that as well. We might actually be able to meet our gender equality manifesto if we do that. So, this is going to take us through to the election. Depending on the result, depends on obviously where we go from here. However, obviously I'll be able to put a little thing at the end of the video that says where our GDP actually is at, as I will save and I will reload. But let's just go to the election. Really? I was going to say. That was mildly concerning at one point there. I'm not going to lie to you. It really was. The Patriotic Alliance Yes, I don't know why they're still getting so many votes, but that's cool. So, okay, it's from the religious, middle income, state employees, ethnic minorities, the retired. They're all voting for the Patriotic Alliance. Even the socialists are voting for the Patriotic Alliance. Really? Interesting. I mean, but when you look at stuff like this, where productivity is through the roof, lifespan is through the roof, their health is through the roof, poverty is non-existent. I mean, really? Why is it the way it is? I'm not sure. I'm very happy with my cabinet. Oh, there you go. We've busted some accountants. Okay, so that does bring us to the end here of episode 4 here of the Australian Economic Superpower. Things are going well. We've made scientific breakthroughs. The budget report, etc., will sort its shit out as soon as I save this and leave, so I'll make sure to put a thing at the end. But I'm very interested now to see where we can take this, because we will be making a very, very healthy amount of political capital per turn now, because our ministers are all very fond of us. So, I think that episode 5 of this will sort of really start to bring us in the direction of where we are trying to go. You'll sort of start to see that the hopefully the expenditure and the debt to GDP ratio will start to balance a little bit more, or start to at least move in that direction where the percentage is closing. Whether that be because our debt is now dropping away because of the amount of money we've invested into the people, or because our GDP is just skyrocketing so much through the roof. It could be a combination of both. Anyway, let's so our debt is 3.26 trillion, is still supposedly significantly lower than our GDP, which is 3 trillion. So that just goes to show how strong our GDP actually has grown during this episode. Quite a lot. Quite a lot. Alright, well, ladies and gentlemen, that does bring us to the end here of episode 4. If you did enjoy the video, please do consider hitting that like button. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would love to see you hit that subscribe button as well. It will keep you up to date of where we are, what's happening, etc., etc. And if you could leave any commentary on maybe policies you'd like to see implemented, things you'd like to see me change, things that I might have missed that could be significantly increasing our economic output. Not that it really needs to be, but we are, of course, trying to now get the debt a little bit under control by trying to not tax the wazoo out of people, basically. Which is doable, and I have done it in previous Democracy 4 playthroughs, but it takes a long time, a good 15 to 20 episodes before you start to reap the benefits of all the investment long term. But that's, I guess, politicians are short-sighted. I'm trying to do this in a non-short-sighted format. So, yeah. Anyway, you look after yourselves, you stay safe, you stay well, you don't do anyone I wouldn't do, and I will catch you legends in the next episode. Cheers.